what I've always admired about you, from the Blues Breakers to Blue Whale, is your passion for the blues. Where does that come from?
Early days in London, the first people that I met that were musicians, and it was a fit. I purely, I was never a technician. I just wasn't that type of player. So I found a perfect fit. And my first friend that I ended up playing with literally heard me playing in the garage in my sister's house in London, which was a Mews cottage. So you had the garage underneath, knocked on the door and said, I'd never played with anyone in my life. And he really knew his stuff, from Nina Simone to Mose Allison, some quite, when I look back, quite jazzy type of entities, and of course early rock and roll, and then straight into where that all came from, which was Delta blues. So I started learning and listening. That was the first thing that ever happened to me when I went to London. So just by circumstance, I found that. And of course that became especially with early Fleetwood Mac, with Peter Green, that was all we did, which was to live out our musical fantasies, really, to reproduce and to emulate all of our heroes, which of course were American blues artists that very often had been, sadly at that point in time, forgotten about, to say the least, from whence they came, which was the United States of America. Didn't really have any huge regard, sadly. But in Europe, like in the 20s, when a lot of American jazz musicians ended up in Paris and stayed there for good reason, where they were respected and their music meant a damn. So all of that came from really just happenstance through Peter Bardens, who was the chap who knocked on the door, hearing me play drums in the garage.
Wow. You mentioned Peter Green. How is he? I know you all just did like a benefit, like in remembering him. How is he?
He's well. He's changed from, he went through a whole emotional change, which is way too long of a conversation to have. But he actually wrote to his caretaker today, and sadly he loves to play every day at his house, and now he can't. So they're doing it. They're trying to do it online. Where a dear friend of his who went around 3 days a week to play, just sitting on the couch playing guitar. He leads a very retreated life, but his health is okay, and he's Peter with no ego, not everything we just did in London. He approved of, but I could tell that he doesn't really understand what it was and what it's been, his music and the music he created. He has no ego at all. He has no regard for the fact that he did it and influenced so many people, which is charming. So I'm trying, and did that whole concert in London, to acknowledge Peter, who started Fleetwood Mac. And a lot of people don't know that. They often think that me and John or myself were the founding fathers of Fleetwood Mac. Peter Green was, and we were happy to be playing with him. So he's okay. He doesn't play anymore outside of his home, and life has changed, and I accept him as a changed person.
Yeah. I think if everyone in their life had someone like Mick Fleetwood who would, take that extra step to show the rest of the world, what they mean to the world, whether or not, they want that or not, I think the world would be a better place. I remember when that happened, I just thought it was selfless. It was beautiful. And I really do applaud you for, giving Peter Green the kind of credit you have, because not a lot of people would do that.
Well, it was, in many ways, it served me as well, because it's part of my life, which was really set a tempo. a standard that went on for, and still is, of course, having Fleetwood Macs be, the band still be alive and well. And a lot of those lessons in being able to do that, I came from my days with Peter Green, and remembering what's important, that people need to express themselves and not just be told to emulate someone who came before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's become our very odd history. That we survived with that many musical changes is almost unique, which I'm glad about, that it had the integrity, which Peter, of course, back in those days, we were so devoted to what we loved to do. We didn't even think about where it was going, or what it was going to, whether it was going to be successful or not. It was very, very pure.
Mm-hmm.
And you stray from that recipe, if you like, looking back at my career. But I hope that mostly it's been with the same recipe that has integrity for a band known as Fleetwood Mac. So I'm grateful for that. And with everything that happened in London, literally days before everything got closed down, we have that feast. It was a miracle that everyone convened, all the incredible artists that came out for Peter and for this event has yet to be seen. And we're doing it in a different way, mixing down like this.
Right.
Very different for me, not being able to grab an EQ button or be there in real time. But it's something to look forward to, and I think that's one of the lovely things that we all should be doing. And that, to me, is my signpost that it will come to pass, that this will be a different world, and we will all start picking up the pieces. And one of them for me will be presenting that lovely show in London, and we will just have to wait till it's right to do that.